Good morning and welcome to the USA Cares podcast Year in Review.
Ooh.
Yeah, welcome,
That was
Mr.
impressive.
Trace Chesser, CEO and president of USA Cares.
I just want to know why in the past year you have eliminated me from this podcast.
Well,
Has anyone else noticed that?
Well, we did a test, and there was a week where you couldn't be on, and all of a sudden the numbers went up. So we just kind of ran with that. I don't know if there's a correlation between it or not, but
Or you rigged the numbers?
well, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, okay.
Trace, it's been a big year.
It has been.
And for everybody listening, thank you for being a part of this
Yes.
podcast. Thank you for making this part of your weekly routine. It means so much to us that you're with us, and we hope that we can give some hope and encouragement to all of the veterans out there. That is what this is for. It's what this is all about. And
Hey, and listen, I really want all the listeners to get a lot of other listeners on this one.
yeah,
Because then I have to be brought back if the numbers, if they double or triple. So I'm counting on everybody out there, do something, get some other people listening, downloading.
absolutely. So this is kind of our year in review episode. We promise we'll keep it short, but we just wanted to share with you some of the great things that came out of this year. Trace, talk for a minute about some of those milestones throughout the year that really stick out to you within USA Cares.
There has been so many, and with COVID coming, not to an end, but just decreasing, and then things starting to slowly get back to a new normal. We've seen a lot of things. We've had a lot of changes. The veteran needs have increased. I mean, it's not like that ever decreased, and a lot of other organizations are still referring people to us.
A lot of housing issues.
A lot of housing issues. That's the primary one right now. That and auto, actually. We've seen a lot of auto issues this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're hoping, if you're wondering what he's talking about, we're hoping to keep veterans in their homes. It sounds overly simple, but the reality is that a lot of veterans are in a situation where maybe they need treatment. So they're not in their jobs, so they're not getting paid. And it's this downward spiral, Trace, that can often lead to a situation where they're getting evicted.
Exactly. I'll tell you some quick numbers. I had to pull it up on my phone. We helped well over 500 veterans and their families this year. I wish we could have did double that, but those were pretty significant cases. And there was 688. This is as of December 1st. It's not even the whole year.
Unbelievable.
There were 688 kids involved in these situations. We stopped 277 plus now evictions, foreclosures, keeping people in the home. So these were situations where they were actually being asked to leave.
Right.
And so we stepped in at that point. 174 vehicle repossessions as they're being loaded on a truck.
Yeah.
We stopped that. Over 171 utilities turned back on. So that's just to give you an idea of kind of the year that we faced.
And just, when somebody's being evicted, it's not just them. It's also their kids and their spouses and everybody else. And what happens a lot of times is those kids have to go live with somebody else.
Yeah.
And now you're splitting up a family.
Well, that's what the case managers come back and tell our case manager, or Marlo, the program manager, that a lot of times they'll get them moving quicker because they'll say there were kids involved.
Yeah. It's amazing. I'm looking back at the year too. I'm thinking about some of the big milestones, the people that reached out and either shared their story or maybe helped put on a big event. Stars for Heroes was a big thing that stood out this year. And that's not just a company coming along wanting publicity. Talk about that for a second.
That is one of the most amazing events that I've ever seen. And it's a month long. It goes on in May, runs into June. And it's Hardee's and Carl's Jr.'s restaurants all over the country. They are selling Stars for Heroes to their customers as they come in, and then they take a portion of that, and it ends up coming to. There's another nonprofit that's out on the West Coast that they give part of the proceeds to them, and then we receive the other part. And so they raised over $500.
It was over 500. Yep, $500,000. Yeah.
And so
unbelievable.
It was. I mean, and for them to be doing that is just amazing because, yes, it's the intention of the franchise owners. It's the intention of the corporate with CKE, but it's the workers.
Unbelievable.
It's the workers. And as we go store to store, we find out a lot of them are veterans.
Yeah. Amazing. I think about some of the people met throughout this year. I've been new to it this year, to USA Cares. But it's the stories that I've heard
Yeah.
have been unbelievable. I remember being in Austin, Texas, and at the Trace Bravo chapter event for the Texas chapter. It was huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun too. Got to shoot some guns and eat some barbecue and Texas style.
Amazing.
It was a good time. But got to meet people like Rayanne Pay and Kimberly Jean and Scott Lopez and Gary Whidden and so many great folks and so many great stories of people who just have a heart and a passion to help other veterans.
Yeah. Kimberly herself has a huge story.
Yeah.
Going back to when she was a service member and then her transition out. And it involved a kid.
Yep, it sure did.
And so,
she came on this podcast. It was, I think, only the second time she's ever shared her story publicly.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous. I'm not sure what I can say and what I shouldn't say.
No, that's okay. I mean, it was a situation where she and her daughter were down to living in their car.
That's amazing.
And they wished that they had an organization like USA Cares to help them.
Yeah. And today she is a recruiter for Tesla.
It's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Veterans usually, in most cases, if you can help them in that one situation, they bounce back.
Yeah. I think some of the other stories I hear, Marla Kaiser was on about a month ago. Just a real powerful story of transitioning out of the military. I think about talking to Andy Dietrich, our chairman.
Yeah.
His journey out of the Army and the path he went from West Point to where he is now. Thinking about our board member, Daljit Hundal. Thinking about somebody who didn't necessarily serve, but has such a passion and an energy to help veterans.
Oh, he is. I mean, both Daljit and Pam, they give so much all the time, and it doesn't stop. He helps to kind of lead that charge with Stars for Heroes. He owns a lot of the Carl's Juniors on the West Coast, but Daljit and Pam, both of them. Pam helped you out.
She helped
when you
so
needed
much.
a lot of help
Absolutely.
dealing with the gala.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the two of them, and then we talked about how we wanted to try to bring up the endowment program again.
Right.
Emily Chambers, and then her husband that now, he died in Iraq.
Yep.
Nick Durov. And it just, it's heartbreaking, that story. But they started an endowment program to help us with that, to put that big pool of money there, then use the interest to deal with operating costs.
That's the cool thing. People ask us all the time, how much of the money I give, so how much of every dollar that I give goes towards the veterans. And right now it's 82 cents for every dollar that is given goes directly to the veterans. I want it to be closer to 100, Trace. And I know you do too.
Well, as long as there's no board members listening, it's my goal to be 90. But I don't want them to hear that, because then all of a sudden it becomes a fact.
It does. And so this endowment, it gives us that opportunity. So that's another way to give, another way to participate for sure.
Yeah. And then we started the Executive Advisory Council.
Yeah. You
got Bill Roby, the former chairman of USA Cares. He just couldn't go away.
We wouldn't let him.
Well, I started to say I wouldn't let him go away. But, he still felt like he needed to give, even though his time was up on the board. And so he said, I want to help start an Executive Advisory Council, C-level individuals for very large companies that want to be involved, but they don't have time. They can't do the board thing.
Right.
I mean, because that's very time consuming.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we've got some superstars on that Executive Advisory Council. That's new this year.
That's awesome. So what about, we hope that some of the stories of some of the people we help, some of the work that USA Cares does gets picked up so that we can share some of these stories. We can share it here on this podcast, but it's not going to have the reach of some of the news outlets. So talk about that for a second, Trace. Talk about some of the stories that were picked up or some of the coverage that happened this year.
Well, we got with our friend Cruz. I've known him since he separated from the Army, and have always tried to, be there for him and help him going. Well, he now has this powerhouse company that he employs veterans only. Well, we got together. We wanted to do something. He wanted to give back, both him and his wife. And so, he said in the month of May, month of May, he was going to give 15% back to USA Cares. Well, it picked up on the local news. Next thing you know, Memorial Day, we were all standing in his shop building a big, massive flag, and that went on for 4 hours, right?
Yeah, four different segments on
Yeah.
Fox News.
So they're wrapping up the hour. They come back for 5 minutes and show the progress.
Unbelievable.
It was huge. I mean, and
one of those moments where you're like, how did I get here?
it's amazing. And then all the spikes we saw on the website, and then the spikes that Chris saw on sales, it was tremendous.
So one of the hard days for all of us this year was the 20th anniversary of September 11th.
Yeah.
That kicked off for this whole organization, really. And looking at that, talk about what Newsweek did.
Well, leading up to that was a troublesome time with our leaving out of Afghanistan. And so that was a very emotional time for all of us. But then there was also Newsweek came out with, they wanted to talk about the 20th anniversary, and then how many nonprofits were formed, how many were born out of the actual events of 9/11 and in 2001. And so they actually put together this big article, and they talked about how there were thousands upon thousands of nonprofits that actually came from that.
Yeah, that popped up during that time. Yeah.
Well, almost all of them are gone now.
Right.
They're no longer around.
Right.
And there are some that they're still there, but they may not manage everything the way that they need to. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they need help. But they listed 6 nonprofits that they said born out of 9/11, but are reliable and here and actually still doing the same mission 20 years later. And USA Cares was one of 6 that was mentioned on there.
That was something we didn't know was coming.
No, we had no idea.
I remember reading that article and reading that bottom portion, and it talks about USA Cares. And I'm like, we didn't solicit this. We didn't go after this. And it just so honored. We were just so honored to be mentioned in there.
Yeah. I mean, of all the thousands upon thousands of nonprofits, for them to have recognized us and realized what we're doing and that our heart and soul is in this to actually help our service members and our veterans, it was an honor.
It was.
I remember you came running in and said, how did this get in here?
I didn't know anything about it. I was going to yell at Alexis because I'm like, you didn't tell me about this. But, the other thing that I thought was really, really cool is you hope the people that we love in this organization get some love on the outside too. And one of those people is Rayanne Pay, who's the chapter director in Texas. And Rayanne's story is powerful.
It is.
We talk a fair amount about female veterans and what they go through and how often they don't get the recognition that they deserve. And, Rayanne is one who she is married to a veteran as well.
Yes.
They both served.
Yes.
They both did a tremendous job. They both had a lot of accolades coming out of the military, but he often gets much of the attention and she often gets overlooked. And so USA Today picked up on that and wrote a nice piece on Rayanne, really focusing on those female veterans. And I think there's more and more focus because of 2021 nationally and going into 2022, more and more focus on those female veterans.
Well, that's something that I really picked up on. And it was actually from talking to Rayanne was, she had it on her license plate that she is a combat veteran.
Right.
And I think it was her and her husband was driving somewhere to a store or something. I don't know.
Yep.
And they got out of the car and somebody came up, walked past her to go up to her husband and said, "Oh, I see your license plate. Thank you for serving." It was her car.
It was her. And she talked about being so upset.
I know. And it was like they couldn't believe. Now, I will say that my fellow paratrooper, my little buddy there, she's only like 5 foot even. And so, you wouldn't expect that, she is this mighty warrior, this military intelligence officer that just, she's amazing.
She is. She would talk about being the first one out of the airplane and the last one to land. Yeah. Because she was the smallest one in the group. But amazing. So I was so excited to see her featured in USA Today. So we've expanded our outreach. So 12 chapters now across the country of USA Cares, and we're about ready for a big boom.
Yeah, that's scary.
No, it's exciting. It's exciting. The hope is to help as many people as we can. This gives us that opportunity. We hope to be in more than 30 cities by the end of next year. By this time next year, I'd like to have 36 cities.
Well, that was all a part of the strategic plan that went all the way back to 2019. We have veterans from all over the world, but I'll focus on the country first.
Right.
hundreds of requests coming in, these applications from our website, and they're not short,
Yeah.
but there's hundreds of applications each week that comes into Marlo and her team, and they have to go through there and try to help as many as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing. We have veterans everywhere that are contacting us saying, I'm in need. What we didn't have is we didn't have the support from other communities. People around here, USA Cares was formed 2003 here in this area, right outside of Fort Knox. We just moved to Louisville in 2018, but that's where it's like everyone here knew the name.
Right.
You go anywhere else, people didn't know the name.
Right.
And so that was a part of that initial strategic plan. And the chapters are probably the greatest tool we have in that plan.
Absolutely. They're doing so much of the heavy lifting for us around the country. So appreciate the work that they've been doing. We added Jenny Davis this year to help with the chapters. We also added Stephanie Jones in as far as donor relations. I'm trying to think of who Dr. Greg Bishop, who was on actually the last podcast episode, and we added
there's
so many people.
Yeah, you want to start going through the list because we almost doubled in size.
Almost doubled. Yeah.
So
unbelievable. And then the one thing I don't want to forget to mention is this podcast.
Yeah.
This started out with Aubrey Gonzalez just a little over a year ago.
Right.
And so appreciative of Aubrey and the work she did to get this thing kicked off. And it has grown from a couple of listeners to now we have thousands of listeners. We're in more than 20 countries, and it's just exploding. So very appreciative to the Speakeasy Podcast Network and the great work they do. Definitely check them out at speakeasynetwork.com. But so appreciate just all the organizations and companies that come alongside us and help us.
You were talking on the technical side. I forgot to mention Connor.
Yeah, we need Connor.
I know, our IT genius.
Absolutely. We would be lost and in the dark without him.
Yeah. Stephanie constantly breaks things. So,
she does.
It keeps Connor busy all the time.
That's another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Trace, any last thoughts on the year?
No. I mean, it's been a tremendous year. I mean, we helped. I'm thinking of one particular veteran that James. He just wanted to volunteer and help. I mean, he did so many things. We love James. He's awesome. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, James ran into a situation to where his company was struggling and they let some people go. So suddenly, our volunteer was a veteran in critical need here of keeping his family together. And so with your help and your friends, we managed to get him a job.
Well,
and it's a greater job than he's ever had before. I mean, it is, he's so happy about it.
Well, it's, that's what we hope to be able to do, right? As a team, we hope to be able to jump in and help those people. It's always wild when you have a volunteer who comes along and wants to help veterans and then needs help themselves. So it's, it really is a privilege.
Did you notice the theme that's going here? A veteran going through challenging times, connects with USA Cares, and now is extremely productive.
Yeah.
Because, you've got another one that's south of here that just started a chapter. I mean, I remember the look on your face when we were sitting in my truck and we started talking about some of the challenges he had faced. And then some of the things that he said, it was very personal, but then he admitted he was just seconds from taking his own life.
Right.
And so he just felt hopeless and he felt that loss of sense of purpose. And I think that's what every veteran that goes through a really tough time, it's something about they feel displaced.
Yeah.
They feel that loss of sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And they still have a purpose. They just haven't quite saw it yet. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
It's just they can't identify it and they feel so out of place. And that's what bothers me the most is I know so many veterans and we have, again, hundreds of them reaching out all the time, but they just can't get a grip on what it is. What's my next chapter of my life?
Right. And that's something that this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
That's something that this is so important. Marla Kaiser talked a lot about being in a dark place, but it won't last forever.
No, it won't.
She said, it doesn't look like in the moment, it doesn't look like there's any way out, but there is, and just stick through it. And Nick Black, who is one of the guests on, talked about, you can give money to organizations, and that's great, and we need money to operate. But the reality is, the best thing you can do is call 5 friends today and let them know you're thinking about them.
Yep. And then the Senior Leader Corporate Fellowship Program.
Yeah.
Paula and Greg, that have grown that program. I mean, that's a tremendous, we've now started a CDL training program out of that. And so, but
amazing.
I brought that up to say, it's not just the young service members. It's not just the ones that just spent a few years in. I mean, we're dealing with senior leaders that have 20 plus years, and they deal with the same emotional challenges that some of these younger service members when it comes to that sense of purpose. So if you're a senior person in the military and you just retired and you feel very unsettled, that's not uncommon.
No, that's normal.
And you need to talk to people and you will get through it. I mean, we have over a 90% employment rate from that program. So many resources out there to get help. And just make sure you talk it through with somebody. Find that buddy from the military who served with you. Call them up, her or him, and talk it through with them. And just say, hey, I'm not doing well today. Yep. I'm having a bad day. And reach out and get some help. I'm sitting here looking through the glass at Rob. There's a Marine. When he first got started in this, we met at a chamber event, and he was telling me what I was going to do. And I remember seeing the look in his eye, kind of like he was telling me, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But there was that, like, what all will it take? What all do I have to do? The questions that come behind it. But he is the perfect example of a extremely successful transition Marine. And he has the greatest podcast that I know of.
Well said.
So thanks.
Thank you, Robert. Well, 2022. We got a lot of chapters to open. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of people to help. I encourage you, if you're listening, go to usacares.org. Find a way to get plugged in. We need your help. And if you're around the country, don't think that just because we're based in Kentucky that we're not in your area, because we are coming to your area very, very soon. If you are a driven person who's just decided, I'm going to make the difference in somebody's life, and you want to help lead a chapter, reach out to us, info@usacares.org, or Jenny, Jenny, @usacares.org. And say, I want to get involved, and just let her know, let us know, and we'll help you through that process. But it's time to not stand on the sidelines anymore. It's time to get involved and reach out today. Trace, any parting words? I feel like we should have some confetti or some champagne or something.
Thing about Jenny.
Yeah.
But I won't.
We won't do that. We won't even do it. We just won't go there.
Even though it's like killing me.
Well, thank you, Trace. It's been a real pleasure serving with you this year, and look forward to a big year in 2022.
You forgot to mention probably one of our greatest things that happened in 2021. You decided to join the team.
Oh, well, that's not a big deal.
Okay.
That's not a big deal.
All right.
But it's been an honor.
It is a big deal.
I'm glad to be here and glad to work next to you. So.
Well, I'm happy that you joined the team and happy that your wife allowed you to do it.
She did allow me to do it. So, well, to everybody who's listening, thank you. Hit that subscribe button. Join us every single week. We look forward to another big year full of exciting guests. We've got some big name guests coming up early part of the year, and you won't want to miss it. So join us each week. We look forward to talking to you again, and we will talk to you soon.
Happy holidays.